Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Females Thriving Over 30 podcast. Have you ever felt like no matter how much you try, like your energy, your body, your motivation just aren't cooperating? Like something is off, but you cannot really explain it. So today's guest, she's going to break down the 4R blueprint, which is a framework that is helping women to finally understand what their body actually needs and how to start feeling like themselves again. So by the end of the episode, you will know exactly which of the 4Rs you're currently missing. But before we get on to our guest, Jasmine, how are you? How have you been?
I'm good, thank you. I was just saying I was a bit ill. I feel like there's loads going around at the moment. I was
Mm,
like ill, and then I got better, and I was like, oh, finally it's going away. And then now I think I've got something else. But I'm
mm.
figuring like get it all out of the way, one illness after another, and then that means I'm in the clear for a
Yeah,
period of
yeah, yeah,
time.
exactly. And hopefully
So
before Easter, so you can
yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know if I've mentioned. Did I mention that I'm running 10K?
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Well, because of the last illness and then this illness, I can't really run,
Mhm.
because both of them have been stuff that's, like, on my chest, so I've not been able to run properly, so that's in literally, like, I think it's, like, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and I haven't
So
been running.
but you're gonna walk it.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
just walk
gonna
it.
like, I've committed to it, I'm gonna
Yeah,
do I'll run as much as I can,
yeah,
um But I think this episode today is going to be great for me because, like, I need to think about all this stuff. Like, as soon as I'm starting to feel better, I need to be doing everything to get myself in the best
yeah,
shape, ready for the run.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even though I'm going to have not very long at all, but I think whatever I could do to make me feel better. I
Mhm.
get stuck in a rut because I feel like when you're feeling bad,
Yeah.
like you're feeling rubbish, and then I
Mhm.
eat rubbish because
Yes.
I want the comfort. Because so like
Yeah.
literally, if I'm feeling ill, I'm like eating all the like chocolate and the cake and,
Mm,
like, potato, just, like,
yeah.
really, like, stodgy comfort foods, and then it's just worse because I feel like it's just making me feel even worse than I already do, so I'm really like, I was thinking about this episode that we were doing earlier, and I was like, "Let's hope that this really helps me to get in a different mindset
Yeah.
so that I can start to, like, sort my nutrition and start to feel better and get ready for my run."
Yes.
What about you? How are you doing? How's your week?
Good. I've finished 2 books on a day, like, like in the previous episode, I was saying that I was not feeling very well.
Mhm,
So I ended up going to A&E on Thursday
mhm.
evening. I went to my GP in the morning first to see,
Yeah.
and then she was just like, "I'm not really liking this, so
Mhm.
go to A&E because if I send you a scan or something like that, it's gonna take like weeks until
Yeah.
you get it."
Mhm.
So I spent 12 hours in A&E, so I had enough time to to read 2 books. Because some of the thing is like, we were waiting every time that the gynecologist had to come see me. We had to wait 3 hours, literally 3 hours from the moment that she was called in until she arrived. So that's why it was taking us so long. And Oliver was just like desperate, like, what the hell? Oh, horrible, horrible. So yeah, I just read 2 whole books in a day. And I've started now learning chess on Duolingo.
Ooh, I was about to say, like, I hate being in A&E or
Mm.
any sort of, like, just any waiting room like that. I remember when Mina was younger, she fell and, split her chin,
Oh,
and, like, it completely split open. It was terrifying because she must have been 2 at the time, and it was a gaping, like, split under her chin
ugh.
from falling on hard floor, and I was on my own. It was a scary experience, but I reacted fast and got her to the emergency care. It wasn't A&E, but it's like an
Mhm.
alternative thing that
Yeah.
they have. And yeah, just waiting in those waiting roo it feels like forever, doesn't it? And
Mhm.
then you just look around at all these people in all these unfortunate situations with all different, like, ailments and stuff, and we're all just, like, there waiting all that time,
Yeah.
so I feel for you having to,
Yeah.
wait. I was gonna ask you, did you read The Tenant?
Yes. I
Did
read
you
The
enjoy it?
Tenant and I read Never Lie. So the both of the of the books. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It's just like
Good.
the twists at the end, they're always kind of like,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah, that was a bit of a wild it's a bit of a wild ride, that one,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's good. Um, and then what were we saying? What
Oh,
were we saying after that?
chess in Duolingo.
Oh, yeah, so I didn't even know you can learn chess in Duolingo?
Yeah, I didn't know either. And the previous weekend, we've met with some friends that we haven't seen in a while, and they said like, they're learning chess with their daughter through Duolingo. And I was like, wait, what? And yeah, you can just do languages, you can do chess, and you can do something else. I don't remember now what it was. But yeah, it's fun. It's really cool.
Well, you remember I was learning Spanish. I mean,
Hmm.
I've had big goals for my Spanish journey, and then it fell by the wayside. But I was doing really well in my lessons, like I was doing all my Spanish, and then I don't know what happened, like the just typical like
Yeah.
life got in the way, and I stopped doing this. And then now, like I have this bad relationship with Duolingo because the Duolingo basically harassed me for
Oh,
months after. It sends you all of this stuff, and it was like it looked like the app was breaking. It was like crying, and now I feel like I can never go back because I feel like personally targeted by Duolingo. Like I actually, I feel like like when I've ended a relationship on bad terms with Duolingo, and it
yeah.
feels like I can just never go back
No, go
there.
back. You block. Like we said in that episode, just block. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and everybody listening, if you remember in the previous episode, I said that someone like kicked my door, and today I sent Jasmine the photo.
Like I would just right, I get what you're saying that they jumped. I just don't understand. Like their foot is literally. I don't know how you jump into that direction to kick a door. Like I would
Yeah.
understand if the foot was even this way, but the foot is like. I feel like either somebody was holding them up or they ran across your house, like up and over the door. Like it's like they ran across your house, like on their side, like they're in some stunt movie.
I don't know. Like I said, like it looked like they were doing parkour or something. It's just so odd. So odd.
I so wish you had a Ring doorbell so
I
we could
know,
watch
me
back.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. And everybody's like, you see, this is why you need to keep an eye. And I'm like, how am I gonna keep an eye? Like, sorry, my eyes are inside of the house. I'm just not like neighbor watching on the window like that, like every day. That it was like that's why we need the ring door. Show
I just
everybody
thought,
how that
like, the
happens.
only other explanation that I can think is that they took off their shoe and threw it at your door.
Oh, maybe I don't know,
But then
but
why would they do
that was a
that?
beautiful
And
print.
they've got
If
to,
they
yeah,
did
then
it,
they've got to get the shoe and put it back on and run away in time. That's stressful. That's a high pressure situation.
I don't know, but I think you're right. Like it's all of the trends, on TikTok and stuff.
If
Yeah.
if anyone sees a video of well, we're assuming it's youth. It might not be youth. It might be a full-grown person. If anyone sees a video of somebody doing some parkour against a front door, let us know. Because how funny would it be if we found
Can you
if someone
imagine?
came across the video and we
My
find the
house.
culprit?
It's my house. It's my house. Okay, so our guest is in the lobby, so we're just gonna let her in. So we have now on the podcast Sarah Law. I've met Sarah, I don't know how many years ago, and to be honest, I kind of like get in kind of like a foggy on exactly at what moment I met her and in what circumstances, because I know I was doing Arbonne with her but also bodybuilding at the same time. So I don't know exactly which one came first, but that's how I met Sarah. And obviously I have been following her since then. And recently I've came across one video that she made on her profile regarding the 4R blueprint. And I thought, this is something so interesting that I think we really need her to come on the podcast and talk to us about. So welcome to the podcast, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are all the way in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Tampa in Florida at this moment in time. I will be back in the UK in mid-April, but we've been here for 3 months now, and the plan is that we will be relocating here once our visa is sorted, but it's just taking a bit of time, which is always fun.
Perfect.
I did wonder why you were looking so like gorgeous and glowing and stuff. I was thinking, wow, she's freaking amazing for the UK.
And like a sunny outside.
It is glorious. 28 degrees. I cannot complain. Let's put it that way.
So
I know.
different to the super windy weather that we currently have here in the
Yeah.
UK. Well, crazy. So yeah, can you share a little bit about yourself, your personal journey, and what led you to create the 4R blueprint?
I absolutely can. So my kind of background originally was I was a professional performer. So I worked in musical theatre. I was very fortunate to have a great career. I loved what I did, kicked my legs around for a living, was on roller skates in the musical Starlight Express, pretending to be a buffet cart for years. And I was really blessed to have a fabulous career. But I'd always had a real passion for nutrition and wellness, and especially women's health, really. And a lot of that stemmed from my mum's journey. So my mum, I say this in quotation marks, went through menopause at 32 years old. Now, I don't believe that she actually did. I just believe that her hormones had fallen off a cliff and there was no real root cause approach looked into as to why at the age of 32 has someone got such low hormones. So she was then put onto HRT, which at the time was synthetic. And I witnessed her lose a lot of hair, uh, develop severe eczema on her head that would weep so badly, and just become very depressed, to be honest. But what I then witnessed was my mum become her own health advocate. She read all the books. She used to drag me around this herbal shop in Cambridge called Culpeppers, which at the time I absolutely hated. And now I'm like, I'd love to go there now. And I witnessed her do elimination diets, get rid of her eczema, and really turn her life around. So from a really young age, I was kind of exposed to this whole, women's wellness movement. I just didn't know it was where I would end up. And then I basically kind of transitioned out of my performing career and knew that I wanted to do something else in the health and wellness world. And that's when I firstly partnered with Arbonne as a brand and started working with Arbonne as a consultant. And that really, again, kind of opened my eyes to this whole wellness world and made me realize that that's where I really belonged. So I then, at that point, and this was, back in 2009, went and studied naturopathic nutrition at the College of Naturopathic Medicine in London. And then from there onwards, it's just been a never ending journey of taking more courses, learning more. I then went and trained in functional health. And through my own health challenges, that's what really led me to the 4R blueprint. So back in 2020, the year of fun that everyone can remember, I got COVID, and this was when I was competing. So I was just finishing a couple of shows, and I was great. I felt like everything was wonderful. I felt like I was in a great place, and then was going into an off season, and then all of a sudden, like, I lost my sense of taste and things went a bit squiffy for a while. And I was like, have I had COVID? I'm not really sure. I didn't really have like a fever or anything like that, but there was things that just started to go a bit odd. And I was like, something is not quite right here. And I just felt quite terrible, to be honest. And so I went like digging, looking for answers. And I went down all the rabbit holes with mold and jaw cavitations and all these different things that I knew about. But I kind of, did a lot of the work that I needed to do, but I still couldn't quite get myself back on track. And then I did get COVID again. So I think I had it originally, and then full blown got it I think it was the June of 2021. And that was literally like the tipping point where my health literally fell off a cliff. I gained 10 kilos overnight, that I could not shift no matter what diet I did or, how many calorie deficits I was in. I couldn't train, I couldn't exercise because I'd just be swollen and inflamed. I'd have like severe brain fog, and I just didn't feel or look anything like myself. And at that time, I worked with multiple different practitioners and spent thousands of pounds, like I can't even tell you how much, trying to get my health back. And it was a really challenging 3 years of my life. I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't work properly. And I was constantly searching for solutions that I just never felt like I could find. And then lo and behold, one day I was literally at the breaking point of like, someone has to know what this is. Someone has to have the answers. And I always believe that whether it be God, the universe, someone is listening and looking over us. That day, someone popped up on my Instagram that I'd never heard of before. Well, it was actually a competitor who I followed. She was sharing her journey, and she'd gone from being fit and healthy and competing to suddenly ballooning in weight, couldn't lose it. And she kind of shared her whole journey in a Instagram post, and she tagged someone at the bottom. And I was like, who is this Vince guy? So I went and researched him, watched every video he had ever done, and was like, oh my goodness, it's literally like he's talking to me. Everything he's saying is exactly how I feel and what's happened to my body. So I then reached out to him and was like, you need to fix me. And he basically did. He literally ran me through their process that they have. And it completely transformed everything for me. And so at that point, I was like, oh my goodness, I know so many women who are where I was at. And I feel like I am here and I've been through this journey for a reason, to help those women who are feeling like, they're at the wit's end and there are no solutions. And so I then went on to do his university course and am now one of his apprentices, and have learned everything that I can from him and multiple other mentors as well, to kind of get me to where I am and to be able to help women in the way that I now help them through the 4R blueprint that we run.
So would you say, like, if somebody's feeling like they're not feeling their healthiest at the moment, I was just saying before we brought you into the call, I was saying how I basically have been ill, just one illness after another recently. And I'm feeling like whenever I'm ill, I then just like eat junk and stuff because I feel ill already.
Yeah.
So in those scenarios, or in just generally, if women feel like they're not very healthy and they kind of want to change that, or they feel something's not quite right, what would you say are the first kind of things that they should look at to start changing that?
That's a good question. So I think firstly, what we have to do is assess honestly our habits and how we're eating and looking after our body, because many people are either, especially females, they are putting everyone else's needs before their own. So they're running around looking after the kids, the family, the house. And as women nowadays as well, we have so many more responsibilities. Back in the days, it used to be that the woman would stay at home and look after the kids and would be the housemaker. And now it's like, well, no, women want to have careers and want to be entrepreneurs and all these things. So we wear multiple hats, and that's great. And I'm all for that. But I think sometimes what happens is we then end up doing everything. And so before we know it, we are overrun, just wearing 20 different hats, never having time out, never giving ourselves a break, and never giving our bodies that break that it actually needs. And I'm a prime example of that. I think my brain and my mind is stronger than my body is sometimes. So it's like not realizing that you actually do have a cutoff point, and there are periods where you do need that rest and recuperation time. So I would say, firstly, like really assess that and think to yourself, how are my stress levels? Am I putting everyone else's needs before my own? Do I get time out for me? Do I spend time looking after myself? And then assess those day-to-day eating habits that you've got. Because again, it's very easy to be grabbing foods on the go and, snacking on things here and there. And when we don't really log our food, we don't really realize sometimes how often we are doing those things. When we have a real honest, food diary, and we look at it and we're like, oh, actually, how often am I eating the things I should be eating and how often am I not? That's a really important thing to do. But if you are doing all those things, and I was someone who was a nutritionist, and I was eating the cleanest of diets. I was training in the way that I should. I was doing breath work and meditation and all the things. And there was something that wasn't right. I knew that there had to be a deeper level of investigation. And that would be my best advice, is if you are doing all the things that should work and then not working, that's when you deserve to have a deeper level of investigation to see what's below the surface, because a lot gets missed. And unfortunately, traditional blood labs miss a lot. They are either far too broad in their measurements. So, you could be right at the bottom of normal, but that's normal. Or they're not married together to look at patterns where we can see certain things. So when we look at people's blood labs, for example, if we see certain markers and we're like, oh, this, and this together potentially means this could be happening. So a lot of that doesn't actually happen. For example, in traditional medicine, you'll go to the doctors, you'll get your blood labs done, and they're like, well, everything's normal. And if one marker's off, it's like, oh, we'll just put an observation on that. But it's not looking at why is that off and what is that correlating to in your body. And even with that, some things don't automatically show in the bloodstream. It's not always that you'll have a blood lab done and it's like, well, there it is in plain sight. For me, my immune system was going crazy, but my blood labs looked absolutely fine most of the time, apart from the fact that I had raised antibodies to my thyroid, which happened after I got COVID. That was a sign my immune system was getting chaotic. But all of my other labs, my inflammation markers were normal. Everything else was normal. But I wasn't normal, and I knew that was not normal, and I was just that person that refused to allow that to be my normal. And that would be my best advice for anyone out there is, what true normal is. You should and deserve to live in a state of energy and vitality, waking up feeling positive and like you can go out and do things. But if you're not, and you're struggling to get out of bed in the morning, or you're developing severe brain fog or anxiety or constant bloating when you eat, they're all whispers that your body is giving you. And we are so good as human beings at ignoring the whispers. And the reality is, if we keep ignoring the whispers, the body will start to scream at some point. And we get to choose, do we wait till it screams, or do we actually go, do you know what, let's listen to the whispers and do something before it gets to the scream?
Totally. Like it's one of those things, right? Try to be proactive instead of reactive, right?
100%.
That should be always what we need to really try to do. Like that's one of the things that I've learned in the last few years. But obviously we know what the 4-hour blueprint is because we've been stalking your Instagram. But for anybody that that is listening to us that don't know you already, can you let us know what the 4 R's are? What does that mean? What
Yeah.
is it?
Absolutely. So the first R is for reduce. So when we first have clients that work with us on a one-to-one basis, really what we're trying to do is get them into a nice parasympathetic state, rest and digest mode, reduce stress, support their thyroid, get their metabolism working again, because many of the women that come to work with us are struggling, whether that be with their weight or just their metabolism in general, because I think people often think metabolism just means weight, but it doesn't. Metabolism means metabolism of hormones, metabolism of calories. So when our metabolism is downregulated, all of our processes in our body have downregulated. So we need to get that working again for people to be able to have a healthy gut and to be able to detox properly and get rid of their hormones properly. So phase 1 is very much about that, really making sure that people are supporting phase 1 and 2 liver detoxification so that they can metabolize and break down their hormones properly, that they can get rid of toxins that are in our environment properly. And there's a whole group of people online who are like, oh, we have detox organs for a reason. They do their job. And I'm like, they do. Absolutely. You're right. But would you have a water filter that you never change the filter in and expect it to work? Absolutely not. So our organs are exactly the same with age, with constant bombardment, without the nutrients that they need. They're going to start to struggle. So we need to support them. So phase 1 and 2 detox is absolutely crucial because that's how we get rid of a lot of things. So within that first phase, it's very much about like opening up those detox pathways, supporting bile flow so we can get rid of things that need to be got rid of out of the body, and really reducing stress and calming the body down whilst we get the metabolism working. Phase 2 is called Rebalance. So that's where we go into the gut and start looking at what is going on here, because for many people, they have imbalances in their gut microbiome and they just don't always know it, because I will say to people, what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut. It's not like Vegas. So you could have brain fog, you could have anxiety, you could have acne, eczema, psoriasis, and a lot of that could be coming from the gut. And it won't always present as gut symptoms. I've had many clients who don't have bloating, don't suffer with constipation or diarrhea. They're like, my digestion's absolutely fine. But we have run GI maps because they've got acne or other issues. And I'm like, well, this is showing us exactly what's going on in the gut. And they've got overgrowths of pathogenic bacteria and yeasts and all the things that are then driving their immune system crazy and then driving inflammation throughout the system. So doing the gut work is crucial. Like, the gut is the hub to everything. So we want to ensure that every single person that works with us has a really solid, healthy gut microbiome that is nice and diverse, that their gut lining is nice and solid. And whilst we're in that phase, we then start working on what we call metabolic flexibility. So helping people's bodies get out of a sugar burning state. So burning sugar is not bad. We absolutely need to be burning sugar. We need to be in this kind of cellular pathway, which helps us build muscle and create hormones and all of that. But when we get stuck burning sugar all the time and we can't get out of that pathway, that's where disease starts to happen over time. And especially for many of our clients who are women in their 40s and beyond, where their metabolism starts to shift, when hormones shift, that's when we start to see a lot more disease start to creep in, because they get stuck in this kind of inflammatory response in that pathway where they can't get out of burning sugar. And then when they've got high blood sugars all the time, disease starts to creep in. So we need to help people basically get back to their natural state, because our bodies should be metabolically flexible. We should be able to burn sugar when we eat food, and when we don't eat food, we burn fat and we tap into this other cellular healing pathway. But for many people, metabolic health nowadays is just not good, and that can be for a variety of reasons. So that's where we really start to work on that in phase 2. And then in phase 3, that's where we go deeper with that, because what we want to do is essentially start helping people revive their mitochondria. So mitochondria are like the little batteries within our cells. They're the things that basically turn food into energy. And so if we can't do that, then we're kind of screwed. And so that's essentially where phase 3 is in Revive, is helping people get that mitochondrial health back, making sure that they don't have loads of junk cells that are just sitting in their system, driving up inflammation, that they're metabolically flexible so they can get into that cellular healing pathway and start clearing out unhealthy cells that basically accumulate with age and then start to drive the immune system a bit crazy. And then when we've kind of done all of that, we're in a great spot and inflammation is down, cellular health is much better. So hormones can be felt and heard. And this is so important for females because so many of the clients that we work with are women going through perimenopause and they immediately want to jump to hormones. Hormones are the fix to everything. And I'm like, hormones are vital. But you have to look at the environment that the hormones are in and what's throwing the hormones off. And this goes back to my mum's journey. What was throwing her hormones off at the age of 32? It wasn't that she couldn't produce hormones. And if she couldn't, why? That's not natural. So yes, absolutely. When women are going through perimenopause, they're going through huge shifts. But we have to look at the whole picture, not just part of the picture of hormones. And if we just jump the gun and go to hormones, we're missing all of the parts that impact hormones, but also all of the systems that may have gone slightly off because of hormones. And that means that when we get to the point where if someone does need to layer in hormones, their body is going to be receptive to them and feel them. Because if the body is inflamed, then those receptor sites on cells can't really feel the hormones particularly well. They're not going to get the response that they want. And we see this time and time again with women that come to work with us. They're reaching their 40s, they go onto HRT thinking it's going to be the magic bullet. It's going to be the thing that changes everything. And then they're bitterly disappointed when it doesn't. And they end up gaining weight and feeling worse. And they're like, what is going on? And it's because their body's not ready for it. If they're not detoxing particularly well, if their gut's not in a good place, that's how we get rid of our hormones. So now we're layering in hormones into a system that can't deal with it. Now we're creating more issues than we started with. So if we do things in the right order, when we get to that point and inflammation is nice and low, then hormones can be felt and heard. If they are still being produced, then they're going to be produced better. You're going to have the ability to produce them because everything's working better and mitochondria are working, which is actually how you create hormones. And then you can build muscle easier and your body works as it should. So I always say to people, it's like there's an order of operations. And so it's like thinking of a staircase and you can't just, go from stair 1 to stair 20. You have to walk up the steps. And our body is exactly the same. We can't just go from 0 to hero. We have to do it in the right order. But unfortunately, most people do it in the wrong order because they just want to get to the end and they think there's one thing that's going to be the thing that makes the difference. And it's like, no, there's a whole body approach that needs to happen. So phase 4 is called renew because that's when we're in that kind of state of renewed vitality. Everything's back online. We feel like ourselves again and like we did when we were younger because that's how it should be. Yes, absolutely. Our bodies change with age and we need to honor that. But that doesn't mean that we should walk around with no energy and not be able to sleep properly and feel like we don't feel like ourselves anymore.
You've mentioned a couple of things there, but are there any other like myths or mistakes, like common mistakes you see, or just like quick fixes that we see for women's health or for weight loss? Are there any of those kinds of things that you see happen often?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think there's so many misconceptions around is fasting. I'm a huge fan of fasting when it's done in the right way. But again, a lot of people use it as a tool to just undereat. And that's not the purpose of fasting. The purpose of fasting is actually to help the body get into that cellular healing pathway, AMPK we call it. And that's kind of like a cellular switch that gets switched on when the body senses a lack of, nutrient, a lack of carbs, a lack of protein. So when it's done in the right way, it can be very therapeutic. However, many women just go, right, that's it. I'm going to start fasting. And they try and just do a 24-hour fast and then they're not eating enough in the first place. And that will only ever backfire. I always say, to our clients that it's like going to the gym and trying to squat 200 kilos when you've never squatted in your life. It would end badly. And that's exactly the same with fasting. It's your body's natural state. It knows how to do it, but probably for 40 years of your life, you haven't done it. So if you just try and do it off the bat and go, right, I'm going to do a 24-hour fast, your body's probably going to hate you. And if you're already chronically dieted or under eating, you are already adapted. Your body will adapt to whatever you do too much of. So if you're chronically under eating, your metabolism's down-regulated, you have to spend time being fed before you have the right to fast. So I think this is why there's so much debate online about fasting, because there's a lot of people who have done it and done it badly and done it wrong and suffered the consequences. But when it's done in the right way, it can actually be incredibly beneficial. And it's knowing, time and duration for anything. When is the right time to do it? How long do you do it for? That's the key, really. So that would be one of them. And then the other one I would say right now is probably the use of GLPs. So GLP injections, weight loss injections. And I am actually, as a nutritionist, I'm a big fan of them when they're used in the right way. And again, it's all about context. And the problem with anything like this is it gets abused. People are getting hold of them and they're going on really high doses, and then they don't have the protocols around them to support keeping hold of muscle and to support their body when they come off of them. So they're not really fixing anything. And so if you do that, they're just going to be a crutch that then long term is actually going to backfire. But when you use them in the right way, they can be incredible tools to help people with their cellular health, to reduce inflammation, to support insulin signaling again, which for women in their 40s and beyond can start to go wrong. But it's all about using things as they should be used, not as, the only thing and then it backfiring when you do it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, everything that you said, like, it makes total sense. Like,
Mhm.
but also, like, for example, what you said about fasting, like, not everybody can fast, right? Like, it probably is not going to be something that you can just say to everybody, oh, yeah, you can fast. It really depends on the
Yeah.
person, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because it
Yeah.
depends on the state of their nervous system, how stressed they are, their adrenal glands. I think everyone can at some point, but it's about when,
Mhm.
because it depends
Yeah.
on what stressors they've got in their stress bucket. And if they're already depleted because they've been stressed to the high heavens, their adrenal glands are on the floor, and they've got far too much going on in life, then it's probably not the time to do it. But if they get their stress under control and their adrenal glands are happy and healthy and they time it with their cycle, then yes, absolutely, it could be a thing that's really
Yeah.
supportive.
Yeah, because I've tried the fasting. Like, when I got diagnosed with endometriosis and I had my first surgery and everything like that, my body changed completely. Like, I'm super puffy still, like, in my face and everything like that. So it's like, okay, let me try fasting to see if that will help me with, not having like my blood sugar level super high or something like that. And it didn't work. I
Mhm.
think it made it even worse. But maybe it was because obviously I had like a lot of inflammation and a lot of stress on top of all of the things. And you
Yeah.
don't really think about these things. You don't
Yeah.
really think about, like, oh, is it my gut health? Is it like the inflammation of the endometriosis? I've gone through the same thing, like, I've been doing bodybuilding, I've been doing diet. So I was just kind of, okay, I'm just going to try to do a little bit more exercise. I'm going to try to then clean up my diet now to see if I can just like reduce, because probably, the stress and the hormones and stuff and retaining water and stuff, and nothing
Mhm.
worked.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And it's when the body is stuck in a state of inflammation, weight loss resistance happens because the body is using all of its resources to keep the immune system going, basically. And it gets you stuck in a state of sugar burning because that's what feeds the immune system. The immune system runs on glycolysis. So you basically get stuck burning sugar and then you can't get out of that state to be able to tap into that other cellular healing pathway. So then you've got kind of all this inflammation that's just blocking everything from doing its job properly as well. And that was very similar to me when I had long COVID. Like I could have done all the dieting under the sun, but I still had high blood sugars and I still couldn't lose weight. And it wasn't because I was cheating or, not tracking properly or lying to myself. I was like, why would I do that? It was purely that my body was resisting everything because it was so inflamed, and inflammation will just drive up glucose. And that glucose then gets us stuck burning that sugar all the time. And then the immune system is just stuck in this chaotic state essentially. And it wasn't until my immune system calmed down that then the weight just dropped off and I was like, oh my goodness, like I actually look like myself again and I feel like myself again. So it's fascinating how the body works. And again, to your point, like I believe that fasting could work at some point, but it has to be done in the right time. So that's why we have a real order of operations that we do with clients to ensure that by the time we get them to fasting protocols, if we're going to use that, their body is able to deal with it and it's ready for it. And we walk them into it slowly so their body has time to adapt to it so that it doesn't go into that kind of what we'd call cell danger response, which is where the nervous system kicks in and then just counteract the goodness that can be done from it.
You've mentioned hormones a couple of times. We've talked a lot in the past about um, education for women around their hormones and their cycle and how this all links together. So kind of how do they impact each other? And are there, you've mentioned like certain times of the month might be better to fast, for example. How strong are the links between your body and your nutrition and your hormones? And can you give us some examples?
Huge. So our hormones, like Oh, I truly believe that as women, we should be taught this at school, and we're just not, are we? Like, I didn't learn anything about hormones in my body at school.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I think we did sex education, and that was about it. And I'm like, why did no one teach me, like, what a period was and what was about to happen
Yeah.
in my life? It's
Exactly.
crazy. It's
Exactly.
crazy. But yeah, hormones, what we have to think about with hormones is that they are messengers. So they are just there sending messages around our body, and they are influenced by many things. So when people think, oh, I've got a hormone imbalance, we have to look at, well, what is driving that? Because it's not the natural state for your hormones to be out of balance. Your body is so smart. It knows what it's doing. It knows why to create hormones and how to create hormones. So when they're out of balance, we have to look at the why. And again, a lot of that will come down to chronic stress, under eating, overtraining, because that will essentially cause a rise in cortisol and low progesterone. So then we don't ovulate, we don't get that progesterone, and then we end up estrogen dominant, even without high estrogen. Poor liver detox pathways and poor bile flow, because again, they are our excretion routes. So what happens, let's say estrogen goes to the liver and the liver breaks that down into a metabolite. So we've got phase 1 detoxification. That's where estrogen gets broken down. Because when we've used a hormone, it has to be excreted out of the body. It doesn't just stay there. It has to get out, essentially. So phase 1 detox breaks down that hormone into a metabolite, which is actually in that intermediary phase more toxic than the estrogen. So then it has to be neutralized in phase 2. And then once that's happened, bile is the thing that grabs all of those metabolites, dumps them into the gut, and then the gut packages them up, and then out they go in our poop, basically, and then we also pee them out, and that's how we get rid of estrogen. So if there's any block in the chain, we've got poor bile flow. Our liver detox pathways aren't that great, and again, some of that can be genetic. Some people just aren't that great at detoxing, or they've had a high toxic backlog in their life. They're surrounded by a lot of chemicals in their work, for example, or they're not getting the nutrients that they need for phase 1 and 2 detox. That then all makes a difference as to whether that estrogen is going to be recycled back into the system or gets out of the system. And then we have the gut. In the gut, we have a specific group of bacteria called the estrobolome, which are responsible for either recirculation of estrogen or getting it out. So they have the ability to release an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, which essentially allows for the recirculation of estrogen. So if that's happening, then we end up with this big imbalance between our estrogen and progesterone, because estrogen that should be getting out of the system is going back into the system rather than going. So that's really important to think about. Like with hormones, it's not the hormone's fault, and the hormones get the blame for everything. It's my hormones. And I'm like, yes, it is, but why is it your hormones? What is impacting your hormones to make them do that? So we have to look at, what precedes it, essentially. So gut, liver, chronic stress, and even mitochondrial health, because the mitochondria are where you turn cholesterol into hormones, because all hormones start as cholesterol and then they go to pregnenolone. That conversion happens in our mitochondria. So if someone has poor mitochondrial health, and again, a lot of that can be dictated to by circadian rhythm, our natural state of living. If we think back to, the dark ages, we would get up with sunrise, we would have sunlight in our eyes first thing in the morning, and we would go to bed when sun went down. And now we have artificial lights, and, we would eat and we would fast as well, because we would eat when there was an abundance of food, and then we'd fast when we didn't have anything. But we've got modern day living now. We've got refrigerators. We've got lights that mean we can have, light 24/7. And so we forget about honoring our circadian rhythm. And that really impacts our mitochondria. They need daylight and they need darkness at certain points to fire in the way that they need to fire. Oxidative stress, toxins, etc., can damage the mitochondria too. And again, some people like myself are not genetically blessed with great mitochondrial health. So when we know our genetics, it means that we have the ability to see where are our weaknesses that we can support a little bit more with more mitochondrial supplements and protocols that will help them fire a little bit better, so that hormones can actually work a bit better. So there are multiple things that go into hormone balance, not just the hormones. And this is why if we just focus on the hormones, we're missing so many pieces of the puzzle that are actually driving the hormonal imbalance in the first place.
That makes total sense. To be honest, like I have been sleeping much better since I literally got like blackout curtains, because I have a huge street light outside of my window. And even though you had like a curtain, you could just kind of like see outside. You're trying to sleep, but still doesn't feel like it's properly
No,
dark.
exactly. Your body knows that. Like your skin is like a sensor. it's not just the eyes, because people always think, well, I'll wear an eye mask, and I'm like, that's great, but your skin is a sensor as well. It detects light. So as soon as there's any kind of light in your room, whether that be a blue light on a TV or anything like that, it signals to your body that it's not fully dark, and then that will trigger cortisol, and cortisol and melatonin are opposing hormones. So melatonin should be there in abundance, which is a really potent antioxidant, which you're not getting that antioxidant protection, then you're not sleeping properly, which then disrupts everything. So then it just sends the whole cascade off, because every single one of our cells have got clock genes in them, which are dictated to by light and dark cycles. So that's what kicks off the cascade of hormones. When we wake up in the morning, it's because of cortisol. That's what wakes us up. And then cortisol should rise, and that's dictated to by light. That signals to the body it's daytime, so melatonin production drops. Then when it gets dark, the body's like, oh, okay, melatonin needs to kick in now so I can sleep, and cortisol should be low. So if we're not honoring any of that, and I know it's not easy in the UK when you've got winter and you're like, it's light for about 3 days and then it's grey. But where we can, we really need to honor that circadian rhythm. And sometimes it's the simplest things that get overlooked.
Yeah. And one of the things that you've mentioned a few times is, like doing the labs and making sure that we understand everything that is going on. And obviously we want everybody that is listening that is having this type of issues, please go to Sarah and make sure that you hire her as your nutritional coach and go through the full 4-hour blueprint. But where can people get this type of labs? Because obviously, the GP is not going to ask you for anything that is not the basic.
No.
You're going to have to fight a lot for it, even if you want an extra thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always say to our clients, do what you can on the NHS. If there's things that sometimes we'll try and write letters for them to get some extra blood labs, but in reality, most of the time it is the basics that you're going to get. We can see a lot in some basics, a good comprehensive blood lab, we can see some good markers, but there'll probably be some gaps. So we have the ability to order them for our clients. We can order GI maps, we can order Dutch tests to look at a deeper level of hormones. We can order blood labs, organic acid tests. I mean, we've got access to all of the major lab companies to be able to order everything that we need to see, at a deeper level, what could be impacting that person's body.
Yeah, because I've seen you having really little things that you just do, and drinking a blue liquid.
Blue stuff. Yeah, all the weird and wonderful potions in my house.
Yes, it literally looks like potions.
Yeah.
You're just doing a potion.
I'm a witch.
Yeah.
I'm picturing you trying to get into America from your flight with all of your potions. And I
Oh,
bet you had a lot of
honestly,
questions.
yeah. It's always interesting when me and my husband go through security, and they're like, "What is this powder? What is this powder?" And it's goes through the security checker about 3 million times.
It's interesting that you said and I think it's something that we should all try to invest on, a proper deep labs to understand what is going on with our body. Recently, because of going through my 4th cycle of IVF soon, my sister, because she works in a hospital, she's requests me 1,000 different type of tests, immunology, and I found out that I have the celiac gene.
Yeah.
So I'm not celiac, but I have the gene, so I'm not processing gluten normally. And it's made a massive difference to my sleep, to my life in general, cutting out gluten.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's like for your immune system, if your immune system is reacting to that, then the immune system is going to get upregulated, and then it will drive inflammation throughout the body. And that's where we start to see, severe immune system. There's a big correlation between endometriosis and the immune system as well. So and the gut, when there's leaky gut, and probably that gluten would be pulling your cells of your gut lining apart, and then triggering a big immune response. And then that can drive a lot of endometriosis issues. So, the body is a wonderful thing, but like you said, there's just not enough deep investigation done normally. And I always say, we give our cars a thorough MOT every single year, but how often do we do that for our own bodies? We just don't, do we? And we just kind of go, I feel all right. I'm a bit tired, but I feel all right. I'm fine. And it's like, but are you actually, really fine? And you don't know if you don't test. You don't know what's below the surface. And so, just like you said at the beginning, being proactive with your health is always going to serve you for the long term.
And what can be like the first step that people can take? So in terms of like resources, it would be useful, obviously, your Instagram. But anyway, anywhere else that you feel, I'm sure there's lots there.
Yeah.
But anywhere else you feel is like a good resource or a good just like first step. If somebody's never done anything like this before and they listen to this and they think, actually, I think this is something I really need,
Yeah.
what are those first things that you'd get them to do?
So the first things I would get someone to do to begin with is, again, like go back to the basics and start looking at your day-to-day living. Like do a food diary for 3 days and really assess what are you eating, and do it a bit like a journal where you're looking at, your routines every single day. How are you getting up? Are you waking up in a state of stress? Are you running out of the house? Or are you spending a bit of time in the morning just for you, like doing some breath work or some meditation or grounding yourself in some way? How often are you eating on the run? Like just give yourself like a 3-day diary of kind of like being the observer of yourself. Like, what is my day to day like? And if someone else watched this, would they be saying, okay, there needs to be some changes here? I think that's step number one, because until we're aware of what we're doing on a daily basis, we actually have no idea. And so, like I've mentioned, many people think they're doing all the right things, but actually, when you drill down, they're not. They're scrolling their phone at night in bed. They're not drinking enough water and electrolytes. They're, snacking on the go. They're never sitting and being present with their food. All of those small things add up over time. So that would be my kind of first port of call, I would say, is really getting back to the fundamentals of honoring that circadian rhythm and then looking at your diet and going, how much of my diet is real whole foods? How much has come from the ground or how much has come from a high quality animal? Because if you're focusing on those two things, that's the fundamentals nailed, really, to be honest. And it's so easy in this day and age to think we're doing everything right because marketing is very clever and you walk into a supermarket and it's like healthy. And it's like, really? Is it though? Like, how many ingredients are in that packet and where did it come from and how long has it been sitting in plastic packaging and all of that? So if you can go back to real basics of things from the ground and high quality animals, you're doing yourself a favor to start with.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually just releasing a membership as well. So within that membership, it's going through, we've got courses on gut health, on liver detox, hormone mastery, metabolism mastery, supplements, the whole shebang. So that is launching like now. And I can give you a 5-day free access pass for that. So you can come in, be in a nice community of like-minded women, learn. And if you like it, then you can stay with us.
Amazing. That sounds great. And one thing that you have just said that I was just like, this is interesting because you said like drinking water and then electrolytes. And I'm like, okay. So like you just think about like you need to drink this many liters of water a day, but I don't think we're thinking about electrolytes at all.
No. And that's it. Minerals are so important for every single cell in your body. You need hydration intracellularly, not extracellularly. And so a lot of the time people are walking around just not having enough of those minerals to actually help their body be fully hydrated. And again, a lot of that can be through chronic stress, which will deplete minerals out of the body and then we can't hydrate properly. So just having good quality electrolytes, and that doesn't mean you have to be chugging on electrolytes all day, every day. But, for a lot of people in this day and age, they just need that extra bit of support. And it can be as simple as add a bit of salt into your water bottle, a little sprinkle of salt into your water bottle. That's you getting actually the minerals that you need to let that water actually do its job properly.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting because I've never thought about this. I only thought about electrolytes when I'm sick, I'm like electrolytes come to me. But I don't think about that on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I think people have got this massive fear around things like salt because it used to be, salt is bad and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not. Salt is vital for life. Like you need it. It's got those minerals in it. Like that's how we get hydrated and hydration rules every single cell in the body. So, it's kind of like there's a lot of myths that have been held onto for a really long time that it's still trying to kind of pull them away.
Yes. And if someone is going to your membership and they like it, but I don't know, for some like they just recently got fired, they don't have any money to now go into the membership or just like get you as their coach, and they can only do one of the 4 hours. Which one would you say try that one?
I would say, I mean, it's always going to be person dependent because it depends on the main thing that they've got going on. For example, if I have someone that comes in who's got severe immune system dysregulation and a lot of autoimmunity, we might, to begin with, have to actually go to the third R to calm the inflammation down to be able to then kind of go back to the first R. But for most people, I would say start at phase one, the reducing stress, honoring your sleep, removing toxic people and things from your life, reducing that
Ooh.
is huge. And then really supporting those detox pathways, which again, if you think supporting bile flow, because that's your main exit route for crap in your body. So things like beets, artichoke heart, dandelion, bitter leaves, bitters in general, all of that is going to support your bile flow. So starting with that, and you could just literally Google phase one and phase two detox. And I actually just did a post on it on my Instagram. And I put some of the nutrients that are needed for phase one and phase two detox. Have a look at that and be like, right, what foods contain these? So that's already like you starting the process of supporting those detox pathways. And again, think where are the main sources that you might be getting a bit of a backlog of toxins? Your environment. So where can you clean up your environment? Could you have a water filter and an air filter? Your products that you're using on a daily basis, how many chemicals are you slapping on your skin every day? And then your food, and I would love everyone to be able to have everything organic, but that's not possible. So simple things like you can soak your veggies in baking soda and water, and that can help remove some of the herbicides and pesticides. And there's a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So with that, you can start to see which are the biggest offenders, like that are sprayed with chemicals that are going to have the biggest impact. The Clean 15, you don't need to buy as organic as often because they don't harbor as many of the herbicides and pesticides, whereas the Dirty Dozen, they're the ones that kind of absorb it. So just small things like that, on a budget can help you move in the right direction.
That's great. Yeah, I'm gonna go and check those lists.
Yeah, me too. This has been, I feel like I've learned so much. This has been
No.
so interesting. Like, I'm definitely going to be like sprinkling a bit of salt in my water tomorrow as well. Because I never,
Yeah.
you just like, if you don't know about this stuff, you just never, like, I would never think to do anything like that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
it's,
again, think like overnight, you've had 8 hours, 9 hours where you've not had water. Your body is dehydrated when you wake up. Just that little sprinkle of salt in some water in the morning can be the thing that sparks you up, gives you your energy back.
well, thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so much. So I'm sure our listeners have learned so much as well from listening to this. What is your Instagram handle? I don't think you've mentioned it, just so people
No,
can find you.
I am at Sarah Law UK. Nice and simple.
Yeah, we will put like her Instagram. We'll try to link those two posts that she just made with all of the phase one and phase two in the description so everybody is able to find it.
Amazing. Thank you so
Well,
much for
thank you
having
so
me.
much.
It's been great.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna go have a little glass of salt water right now.
If you have
And
some energy,
I'm 1 in the morning and I'm gonna have a great day tomorrow.
absolutely.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And for everybody, like we have a lot of listeners that are now regular listeners of the podcast that came to us through our endometriosis episodes.
Mhm.
And Sarah is having an endometriosis
Yes.
seminar, or what's it called, next Tuesday?
Yeah, next
Yeah.
Tuesday.
She's doing a masterclass. So make sure that you go to her Instagram and you sign up for it because there is not that many spaces left. So please go in, sign up, and learn everything that you can about endometriosis because I will be there.
Yes. No, I'm going in. I'm going in deep.
All right, well, thank you again so much for joining us. And if anyone's interested in what we've been talking about today, obviously make sure you head over to Instagram and have more of a look at this and have a look at the memberships and everything to hopefully all feel a little bit healthier and get our gut and our health into a really good place.
Yes.
So thank everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.